This book, I mean, for me, it's such a personal story and it's very much your story, but it's also this incredibly universal story of sexism and sexual harassment and kids and motherhood and loss. And I think it's so relatable in so many ways to just womanhood and being a woman. And there is a lot of feminism in there. Where did that come from?
I don't know, I mean, I guess maybe like, you know, working in the music industry, I sort of noticed the change in tone from people that I was working with as I started to get into my late 20s. It wasn't just a sex thing.
Yeah.
Murray, who used to do my PR, my press, he, you know, also looked after a lot of other acts within, the, you know, the Parlophone or Warner's structure. And, you know, him and I had, you know, are very, very close, and, you know, had a sort of ongoing dialogue about our frustrations within the industry that we were working in. And he said, you know, he would sit in meetings and, you know, talking about the different acts. So they've had Coldplay and Kylie and the Gorillaz and, you know, Damon All, but, you know, whatever. And he just said the way that they talk about you as an artist, in contrast to how they would talk about Chris Martin, is just miles apart, when really, you know, you both have the same amount of creative control and do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that, like,
it's so interesting.
He said it's just really, really belittling. And as I got older, those things started to become more obvious and got worse. And so I became more and more frustrated by it.
It's mad, and I think so much of it can then become internalised. I think women can almost start perpetuating it because we've been told this thing about what we should be for so long. And there's this amazing line in the book when you say, like, you thought that you needed a man in your life to get things done, whether that was like professionally.
Yeah, I remember it really, really well. It was like I went out for dinner with, you know, some new like potential managers. I hadn't had managers for about 6 months, and I'd been self-managing, and I was really, really burnt out, and, you know, trying to look after my 2 kids. And I'd go into the record company and, you know, try and have these conversations, and I just feel like I was talking to a brick wall. And it got to a point where I was like, I need a man to have these conversations, because they're not going to listen to me.
I'm so mad. And also, I think you work with a lot of men as well. That's something that kind of comes up again and again. Do you think that was an active choice, or more as a result of just the industry?
It's a funny one, because like at the beginning of my career I felt really scared of women. Maybe it was because a lot of the sort of negative tabloid stuff that was being written about me would be written by, you know, the 3 AM girls from the Mirror, and you know, I had this sort of feud with Cheryl Cole, and the music industry loved to pit women against each other. So I did kind of have this sort of like defensiveness around women, but I think that that's all by design, because when we do come together, we change things and
it's
usually
like
get rid of them.
This amazing, it's this amazing system to like stop us gaining power. I had the same thing. I like wanted to be one of those girls that only had male friends, and like, you know, it's such a lie.
I think it's just like, you know, wanting to avoid the humiliation of being a woman sometimes. Like, you know, I'm one of the lads. I'm not girl.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm not like them.
Yeah, and also, you know, my dad was, you know, a hellraiser and was not very good with the way that he treated women, and I desperately was like looking for his affection and, you know, validation as a kid and as a teenager. And one of the ways to do that was to go to the football with his mates every Saturday, which is an, you know, toxically masculine environment that I was in, and the way that they would talk about women in front of me made me think, I don't want to be that.
Yeah, completely. Or I want to be like you, so I'm going to talk about women in that way too. Yeah, I've got 3 younger brothers, and it's the same thing, and like the same thing of thinking, it never occurred to me that life would be different for us in any way. You also talk a lot about Me Too and Time's Up in the book. Do you see things changing, or?
Not in my industry, I don't. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, I'm not the best person to ask, because A, I've stopped sort of reading newspapers and things, and B, I don't go out.
The book is also like, it's an amazing description of like a transformation and a change, and you kind of overcoming all these horrible things that happen to you. And I think what's really interesting is that it's not saying like, I became a mother and everything changed and it was perfect, which a lot of narratives around women can be. It's sort of saying I became a mother and then changed after that. What do you think it was then that sparked that change in you?
Actually, I think this book has been really helpful, because I think that I'd never really like gone back through all of that, the stuff that happened. And actually, you know, more recently been approached by, you know, lawyers to get involved with the hacking stuff. And there's one particular news group that, you know, are sort of potentially implicated. And so I was sort of delivered, you know, a bunch of files of press clippings, like since the beginning, from 2005 up until now.
Like the weirdest scrapbook of all time.
Well, I just looked at it and I was just like, how, I know this is going to sound really over the top, but it was like, how are you alive?
Yeah.
Like, this
I
is
felt that really
horrible
That's what I felt reading the book.
And every day, you know, for years and years. And when you're in your early 20s, like, no wonder I turned into such a, like, cold nightmare, because I just had to, I mean, there was no other way to cope except to just put up this barrier.
Yeah.
You know?
My mum will say one mean thing to me and I'll not get over it for like 2 weeks.
With everything going so wrong with my last album, Jesus, commercially, artistically, and you know what happened to me sort of mentally as in that period, meant that I had to really reevaluate everything, and decide what it was that I wanted, and not just to kind of be people please, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I think I just sort of like fell into this trap of like, you know, well, what you want, Lily, is Brit Awards and free clothes and to go to lots of red carpets, isn't it? And when no one really actually asked if that's what I did want. It's just that was sort of bestowed upon me, and everyone's like, it's great. And it's like, yeah, of course it's great, but actually it was never really the intention. It just sort of happened. When that didn't sort of work out with Jesus, the last record, I think my whole sort of everything fell out from underneath me, and I remember speaking to my manager and best friend Seb, and him saying, you know, what do you want? And I said, well, I just want to make really great music and for people to take me seriously.
Yeah.
And he just said, okay, we're going to stop going to parties and get your own studio and sit in there and make the best record that you can. And that's what I did. And it did feel like focusing my energies on that and on the book has sort of like recentered me, I think, because neither of these things have been made with the intention of being really successful.
Yeah.
You know, it's just about doing what I do, which is writing honestly about my experiences and hoping that people get it.
Is that still what you want?
Yeah. And money.
And free clothes. How do you feel about your daughters one day reading this book?
Good, actually. You know, you're younger than I am, but you might remember in your teenage years, you know, throwing everything that you could possibly throw at your parents. And my daughters are going to have a wealth of ammunition in the form of Google News and the Daily Mail online archives. So I just that was sort of one of the things, you know, they are going to they're going to go and find all of that stuff themselves. And so this is a great way for me to go, well, there is another side to it, actually. Here it is. You might not like some of it. Sorry.
Okay.
Some of it's a bit much.
You kind of conclude by saying that you've started to figure out this way to sort of combine motherhood and your career and your life and everything like that. Do you think writing like books will be a part of that now more?
This is pretty predominantly about the last 15 years, which have been really interesting. I don't know.
I love
it's
just
gonna be. It's like, I don't know. Maybe. You know, I'm on a bit of a like roll with writing songs at the moment. So you know, I'm sort of well into my next record. Also started a couple of musicals, which I'm really excited about. Not starring in them, just writing the songs.
I just loved, like, not even the stories about what happened, but just your views on like women and speaking up and the press and everything like that's the kind of thing I think you should still keep writing, because it's so important and it's so amazing, and you were speaking up in a way that no one else was before anyone else was. I think that's the thing women are now realising they're able to do, and you almost like took the brunt for everyone, and I think are a big reason that it's all happening now. Buy My Thoughts Exactly and read it all in one day because it's amazing.